Conference held by his lawyer that Eazy-E had been admitted to Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles and diagnosed as suffering from full-blown AIDS.
Eazy was in the hospital roughly a month ago. He was released from the hospital, came home, but he didn't show signs of improvement, so he went back to a different hospital. This time they ran more extensive tests, and as a result, we found out that he had...
I believe that something else happened, and I'm afraid of what that might be. His daughter, why do I not have the answers to anything about my own father's death?
Eazy-E's health became so serious in the early 1990s, with his body exhibiting alarming symptoms. He didn't experience just weight loss, but also a persistent cough, night sweats, and frequent fevers that left him exhausted and concerned. After seeing that it would become worse if he didn't seek medical attention, Eazy-E was taken to a hospital, and after a series of tests and examinations, the diagnosis was that he was confirmed to have AIDS. However, before he discovered that he had AIDS at first, Eazy-E thought he was just having breathing complications. He assumed it would be something minor like asthma. Well, this was his assumption, which later turned out differently after spending around 3 days in the hospital before being released around February 19th. He was feeling a little better, doing pretty well to even go directly from the hospital to the pharmacy to get medication, and then to the studio with his close friend and protege, BG Knockout.
Eazy-E was first admitted to Norwalk Community Hospital on 2/6/95. He was released 2/19/95, 3 days later, because he didn't feel better.
I was with him.
So he came in 2/16, February 16th, 95, was released February 19th, 1995.
When he was in there for that first time, he came straight from the hospital to the studio with me. Straight from the hospital to the pharmacy to the studio with me.
Eazy-E returned to the same studio after picking up some medications from the drugstore to treat his cough, which he felt was the cause. However, Eazy-E would continue to feel uneasy, complaining about the discomfort in his chest to his artist, Frost, whom he had already told, and adding that he was not feeling well and that his chest was congested.
He's like, man, he's saying like, man, I'm not feeling that good. I got like a chest congestion, like a thing, and then it ended up going into that Sunday. So I went to his house in Calabasas that Sunday, and he handed me it. And then they told me, he's like, man, I got some congestion in my chest. It's turning into like bronchitis or something, right?
After these incidents, Eazy-E was found in the studio again on February 24th with BG Knockout and other colleagues working on their album. Eazy-E had a part on the album, so he came to the studio, but after adding a few rap verses, he asked to be dismissed since he felt uncomfortable. After waiting for Eazy-E for a few hours, Knockout, when Fine Easy was in the studio corridor and had to return 3 times to hurry up his arrival. Eazy-E would reply saying, "Hold on," signaling he'll be there in a second.
He was in the back of the studio, in that little hallway. And I went out there like 2 or 3 times. I'm like, "E, can you please come on and do your little part so we can turn this album in?" He was like, hold on.
BG Knockout would also state that the very last moment he tried to bring him back into the studio, Eazy was breathing so quickly that he started using his inhaler. Then he began sweating heavily, and his health rapidly worsened to the point that he could barely speak.
Heavily. And he started hitting the inhalers. And as we were talking, he started sweating, and his condition just progressively got worse. He can barely.
After staying with Eazy-E in the studio corridor for about an hour, BG Knockout later realized that something was wrong with Eazy, and not just simply asthma. So he quickly signaled the bodyguards to rush him to the hospital because at that moment, Eazy-E's lungs had collapsed.
An hour and a half time of him being in the studio, his lungs collapsed. And then he was admitted back. That's when I told the bodyguards, his breathing wasn't cool, to come and grab him. And they took him and put him in the car and drove him to the hospital.
It's like when his lungs actually collapsed in the studio, wasn't nobody there but me, Donovan, and my cousin, because we was working on our album.
How long was that before he entered the hospital to Cedars?
It was the day of.
Oh my.
According to health practitioners, as seen in this footage, normal lungs have stable air pressure that keeps them inflated. The lungs expand, drawing in air during inhalation, and it is this air that supplies oxygen to the blood and removes carbon dioxide. While on the contrary, collapsed lungs, the air leaks into the pleural space, and forgive me if I say that wrong, I ain't a doctor. So in the process of trying to breathe, the lung loses its ability to stay inflated due to the imbalance in air pressure. So the air is now compressed and accumulates in the pleural space. which will lead to a reduced oxygen exchange, causing one to exhibit some symptoms like chest pain, difficulty breathing, and rapid heart rate. It wasn't far from the symptoms Eazy-E was exhibiting, so to be sure to know the real cause of Eazy-E, he was admitted to the Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, and it would be there that the world would know the real cause of Eazy-E's sickness. After a series of tests and examinations, the diagnosis was devastating. Eazy-E was confirmed to have AIDS on the 24th of February 1995. The news sent shockwaves through the hip-hop community and the general public. At that time, AIDS was still widely misunderstood and stigmatized, making his diagnosis even more challenging to comprehend. Also, it was popularly and falsely believed to be a problem unique to the LGBT community. But Eazy's doctor suggested that he likely contracted the virus through heterosexual contact and informed him that he wouldn't have much time to live. The news was hidden from the public at that time because Eazy-E and his family thought he was going to be treated for the congestion in his chest and all would be fine. But after trying so hard to hide it from the public, Frost, Eazy-E's close friend, was not present in the hospital, but it was his girlfriend who was at the hospital that called him and would later tell Frost that Eazy was placed on the AIDS floor of the hospital.
A girlfriend at that time, and she told me, she said they were at Cedars-Sinai, and she called me on the phone. This was before anybody knew about Eazy contracting the AIDS virus or anything like that. She called me, she said, Eazy's on the AIDS floor right here at Cedars-Sinai. And I'm like, really? I said, yeah, you know, he does a lot of charity things. He probably's up there visiting the patient, like, or seeing something. And she just abruptly stopped me right there. And she said, Frost, Eazy's on the AIDS floor. They don't let people up here, period. It's not no celebrities. It's not none of that shit like that. So I called Tony. Tony G, this was our producer that did La Raza and all that. And I'm all, Tony, this girl told me this on the phone. This is 2 weeks before anybody had even knew anything. And then all of a sudden, he's all, nah, you know, he's got bronchitis, but it's turning into like some stage of tuberculosis. They're trying to get it out of him now, but don't trip. We're gonna be all good. They're still telling me during this week, but this girl had already told me that he was on AIDS.
Frost never believed what his girlfriend was saying, but it later became clear that the information he got was actually true about Eazy.
Lord, phone, and he's all serious as hell, and he's all Tootie. What they call me Tootie, you know, the name that my family called me. So he's all Tootie. What happened with the? How did you find out about that for real? Because Eazy has AIDS, like that. And I said, I told you, Tony, but I never really had told.
While Eazy-E was in critical condition at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, he and his longtime girlfriend, who later became his wife, Tamika Woods, who was pregnant with the second of Eazy-E's children, together got married in the hospital at approximately 9:30 p.m. on March 14th, surrounded by his immediate family. By March 16th, Eazy-E was still in terrible condition, so he decided to tell the public what was happening. At a conference on that day, Eazy-E penned an alleged letter for his attorney, Ron Sweeney, to read to the public, informing them of his situation and to open up about how he felt he might have contracted the disease. He did this as a way to impact and inform the public, and also to many others who looked up to him.
I would like to turn my own problem into something good that will reach out to all my homeboys and their kin, because I want to save their asses before it's too late.
Issued a statement through his attorney.
I would like to turn my own problem into something good that will reach out to all my homeboys. I got thousands and thousands of young fans that have to learn about what's real when it comes to AIDS.
Even someone from the hospital confirmed that Eazy-E, whose real name is Eric Wright, was in critical condition in extensive care wards at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. It was also said that Eazy didn't know he was HIV positive and how he contracted it. In a statement, Eazy-E also added that he lived a fancy lifestyle, moving around and sleeping with women, and that he's the father of 7 children from 6 different women. In the month before he died, Eazy-E allegedly made several controversial statements that were without proof surrounding the way he contracted the disease. The entire world was in shock to hear the revelation the rapper revealed. However, his message to the public still opened the eyes of his fans to learn from his mistakes, change their lifestyle, and bring awareness to the disease. He also made amends with those he'd fallen away from over the years, including Dr. Dre and Ice Cube.
Here now because of this?
Definitely. Most definitely.
It'd be a big loss of that. For anyone to go out like this, despite anyone's thoughts, you know, it's a terrible thing.
I never thought Eazy would have AIDS. you know he was HIV positive?
No, we never knew. He must, he kept his business to himself, I guess. We never knew he was HIV positive. Letting people know what's real that can happen to you. So, you know what I'm saying? I guess he making it a negative thing, more positive than it could, than just what it could be. Just like Magic Johnson when he caught it, he just gotta, like, figures that's out there, like people that's out there that a lot of people, like role models, I guess you can say, when stuff like this happens, they just need to come out and speak and let other people aware of it. So, we can try to contain this stuff because it's getting bad.
The doctor would later reveal that Eazy-E's condition had reached a critical stage and he couldn't walk or talk very well. Eazy couldn't even breathe on his own. He was paralyzed and was in a coma for a couple of hours.
T cells at the time of his initial evaluation was extremely low, which indicated that he had been that this disease had reached a very definite and advanced stage at the time of his presentation.
Can you talk about his last moments? Did he say anything or anything you can share with us about his last moments?
Well, his last moments in terms of his ability to communicate was actually several days ago, because he has been on life support systems since the 15th, since he was placed in the intensive care unit. He was placed on a machine to aid in his breathing. At the time that he was placed in the intensive care unit, he had such critically low oxygen, he had been paralyzed and sedated in order to maintain him until the time of his death.
DJ Yella, a member of the group of NWA co-founded by Eazy-E, recalls that after a risky surgery to clear his lungs, Eazy was induced into a coma.
Right, because you went to go see him, he was already in a coma.
Yeah, that was after the surgery. They was trying to do a surgery to clear his lungs or whatever it is, and they knew whatever it was, 50-50 chance that he can not come out of it. So they put him in a coma. He wasn't in a coma, they induced the coma.
Sadly, on March 26th, Eazy-E died from AIDS-induced pneumonia, 1 month after his diagnosis, and 10 days after his attorney announced his condition to the world.
Rap singer Eazy-E has lost his battle with AIDS just 10 days after revealing that he had the disease. The 31-year-old rapper died last night in a Los Angeles hospital. He was hospitalized last month for what he thought was asthma and said that he did not know how he contracted AIDS.
According to the source, Eazy-E died at the age of 31. He was buried the following month at Rose Hill Memorial Park in Whittier, California. More than 3,000 people, including his friends, Ice Cube and DJ Yella, attended his burial. An unreleased video of his friend, Big Reg, in an interview expressed his take on Eazy's situation before he died, indicates that Eazy was off life support, doing better, and hoped for the best.
Tell everybody the news today. Tell everybody where we at. Tell everybody what's going down.
We down here at the hospital, man, with the homie Eazy, better known as Eazy, but his real name is Eric Wright. I just left the ward up there with his mom, the minister. We had prayer. And then he's doing much better now. He's doing much better. He's off the life support, and he's much better. He's breathing on his own. He's a real, very, very good buddy of mine. And but he's there. I'm choked up right now, but he's hanging in there. And hope with God's grace and God's blessing that he'll pull out of it. He'll pull out of it.
His son, Lil Eazy-E, would also recall waiting outside with doctors racing in and out to operate on his father, seeing him connected to tubes and hearing the numerous cries of family members and medical machines.
Procedure. And then when it goes into a procedure, I was actually right there. I can, like, it was like they opened that door and I could see. And like I'm pumping on his chest when he kind of went in and out. And doctors rushing in and out. And we went to see him earlier that day, which was normal like it was. Then before you go to this procedure, or this, to get fluid off your lungs. And then when he comes out, he has tubes in his mouth and he can't talk. But he's irrelevant, he just can't talk, because I seen him when he came out. And I just remember people crying, because I was literally standing at the door, like, my visual memory of it is just, like, that was a terror, because it's just my auntie run and cry. And doctors keep rushing in and out, and you're hearing that sound like dee 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 dee, and then pumping him. So then when he came out, he went without talking until having tubes in his mouth, and I went to see him, and really more so just him kind of crying and me crying. So, you know what I mean? It's just...
He would also see some camera crews and news vans waiting outside trying to get more updates on his father's health. The conspiracy theory surrounding Eazy-E's last days began to go viral to catch the attention of his killers, from deliberate allegations to the persons involved within the music industry and those close to him. Eazy-E boldly claimed that he was being injected with the AIDS virus and pointed fingers at individuals within the music industry. He said, "I've been injected with the AIDS virus." Eazy-E's statements sent shockwaves throughout the hip-hop community and beyond. As rumors began circulating, debates raged about the accuracy of Eazy-E's shocking words and their effects on his last days. While some questioned the accuracy of his claims, others speculated that there was a broader conspiracy at work. Some even questioned whether he genuinely died from the disease and how he caught it, citing Eazy-E's sexual lifestyle. Since he had children outside with numerous women, which meant he slept with them in order for them to become pregnant, the question arose as to how Eazy-E caught the disease when none of the ladies he slept with contracted the disease.
A woman who's pregnant when you pass, and you have just had a baby.
Then you got side
Then
women.
you have 11 other children. Then you got all these other side women who are your women.
Yeah, I heard a new
And
kid
not one person is.
Yeah.
A new
It's a
Eazy-E
dude,
baby.
he's same age
Okay,
as Eric.
I heard there's actually two Erics.
There's two Erics, yeah.
Why have no one popped up about being it's been given? If you had a cousin, a sister, a friend who had sex with, wouldn't you be telling her to go
It don't add up.
It doesn't add up, bro.
It don't add up.
But essentially, Lil Eazy feels that Eazy didn't really die of AIDS. Like if you look at his situation where like all the women around him didn't have AIDS, it came really suddenly and just killed him like right away. He feels that there was some sort of foul play, like he was injected with something or something like that. Do you guys get that feeling at all?
I mean, yeah, me personally, I do as well, because I mean, even to this day, none of his kids, none of his baby mamas, his mistresses, nobody has came up with HIV or nothing like that. So I mean, just rationally thinking, some had to go.
From the interview, it's obvious how BG Knockout and other folks disagreed with the way Eazy-E died, and that there could be a hidden truth behind his death. They also claimed that his death was way too fast and unnatural for a regular AIDS patient, and that if he did have the disease, there was something actually going wrong somewhere else that ended his life.
Go on.
Yeah, and it's just ironic because, you know, I know people can live with HIV for years and look normal and look healthy, but when you're about to die from AIDS, full-blown AIDS, you're gonna look like you're gonna die from AIDS. I've seen people that die from AIDS and they look like they have AIDS. Eazy didn't look like that at all when he passed away, at all.
So up until the time that he ended up in the hospital, he just looked like the healthy Eazy-E you saw on TV.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
What do you think of the conspiracy theories around Eazy-E's death?
Well, you know, I said this shit early on, and the more years went by and the more knowledge that came out about HIV and AIDS, it still seems a little out of place to me that even the way they portrayed it in the movie, even the way I remember it happening in real life, you know, Eazy, like, in a nutshell, I can say it really fast. He was like, my chest hurt, and then fucking died of AIDS. You know what I mean? And it's like, what happened to HIV? What happened to actually, you know, having AIDS and then deteriorating? Like, you just, oh, doc, my chest hurt, and then you died. Like, something fucking happened. Like, something happened. Something other happened. I don't know what. I could never even pinpoint what it might be.
Right.
But I know it wasn't fucking HIV, AIDS. Like, he didn't.
An autopsy was performed after Eazy-E's death to determine the exact cause of death. After several tests, the results later confirmed that he died from complications related to AIDS. The autopsy results were actually similar to his previous symptoms at the early stage, which, after being revealed, were seen to be severe enough to the extent of the damage AIDS had inflicted upon Eazy's body. This disease had weakened his immune system to a point where it could no longer fight off infections, leading to his demise. The report highlighted various complications related to advanced HIV and AIDS, including pneumonia and septicemia. Not sure if that's right either. But Eazy's passing created an awareness for the attention of the AIDS epidemic and the importance of early detection and treatment, and helped reduce the stigma associated with the disease. For the record, HIV.gov had stated earlier that it's common for people who have contracted HIV to experience no symptoms at all in the early stages because the victim will appear like a healthy individual. So after the early stage of HIV infection, it begins to gradually move from no symptom stage to a stage called the clinical latency stage, which means a particular period of time the virus is living or developing in a person without producing symptoms. Then gradually, it weakens the person's immune system, leading to symptoms like rapid weight loss and pneumonia, the latter of which Eazy-E experienced. But those around him during his final months didn't notice any rapid changes in his appearance or behavior. During this period, after the rapper's death, his son Lil Eazy became an AIDS activist to learn more about the disease and spread awareness to help those who would fall victim to the disease. The more he went deep into getting more knowledge about the causes and symptoms of the disease, the more he began having doubts about his father's death.
Surgeries and, different procedures that you wouldn't think that you would do for a person that has full-blown AIDS, you feel what I'm saying? So, just doing that, and it's some leniency here and there to it as far as what was okay, what's not okay, but what just definitely was not clicking to me the right way was how he died so fast. I'm an AIDS activist now, you feel what I'm saying? I went from country to country, did talks for Ghana, Belgium, just AIDS clinics, facilities, AIDS walk, was doing it every year, all off my education that I want to find out about this disease, and every single step of the way that I do, I'm associated with individuals who run it, and these individuals who run these organizations are getting me to come out here and paying me to come talk or flying me out the country are individuals who are living with AIDS, full-blown AIDS, and just hearing their story and catching up on the facts of what's what and what you can do and how you can live. I still didn't understand of how my father was attacked so fast from it, and died from it. You have individuals who children were born with it from the time was and now older than me. So they just schooled me, educated me on things. I educated myself all the way from 12, 13 years old, and still to this day I just will never believe my father died of AIDS.
It was later found out that Eazy-E's girlfriend, Tamika Woods Wright, who was pregnant with their child, got married to Eazy-E in the hospital because he knew he wouldn't make it and gave her control of his estate. It's important to note that Eazy-E's death came at the time when West Coast hip-hop was at the center of a power struggle between NWA's former label home, the Eazy-E founded Ruthless Records, and Death Row Records, Suge Knight, and Dr. Dre with other artists. But how did he get to this level of owning his music label? As you all know, Eazy-E's life as a teenager began on the streets of Compton. His real name is Eric Lynn Wright, and he was born in 1964. For the record, in the 80s, Compton was a dangerous place to stay. It was known to be described as a quiet suburb of LA, and also a last resort for poor Americans who were struggling to afford a place to stay. As most middle class abandoned the region during the 1965 Watts riots, crime began to spread. During the 1970s, Compton became ravaged by gang activities like the Crips and Bloodsets, who were fully embarked on a drug trade business. 20 years later, Compton would later experience a tremendously high murder rate of 91 killings per 100,000 people. This was where Eric Wright, aka Eazy-E, was born into. His father was a postal worker, and his mother employed at a local grade school. Neither their family, their home, nor their neighbors was so rich to take care of themselves. So, how did Eazy-E do it? The formation of NWA. After dropping out of school in the 10th grade, Wright became a full-time drug dealer, not only to provide for himself with a lucrative source of income, but also to survive on the streets of Compton. As Jerry Heller, Wright's feature manager, would say, no one survived on the streets without a protective mask. No one survived naked. You had to have a role. You had to be a thug, a player, an athlete, a gangster, or a dope man. Otherwise, there was only one role left to you: victim. At the age of 22, Wright would later earn as much as $250,000 US from dealing drugs. It was already making sense in his head, having gathered such an amount of money in just 3 years. So he decided to make a better living by investing his money into music. This would come after his cousin was shot and killed. Details were not revealed as to what happened behind the scenes before he was killed, but all we know was that Wright would later get into the music and immediately gain popularity. However, Wright, who had spent years as a street-level dope dealer, had no school degrees and no contacts in the music world as to at least assist him in his new career. So he decided to set things up by himself, a mini studio in the garage of his parents' home, and use it to make his first recordings. The original idea for Ruthless Records came when Wright asked Heller to partner with him in 1986. Wright suggested a half-ownership company, but it was later decided that Wright would receive 80% of the company's income and Heller would receive only 20%. According to Heller, he told Wright, "Every dollar comes into Ruthless, I take 20 cents. That's the industry standard for a manager of my caliber. I take 20, you take 80%. I'm responsible for my expenses, and you're responsible for yours. You own the company, I work for you." After the agreement, Heller would later claim he invested the first $250,000 and $1 million into the company, while Wright invested an undisclosed amount of his money into Ruthless Records. Soon after, Wright collaborated with other local musicians like Andre Young and O'Shea Jackson. Young and Jackson were the writers for HBO, one of the groups Wright had signed to Ruthless, but when the group rejected the song, Wright decided to record it himself. So, Young, Jackson, and Wright, under the names Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, and Eazy-E, recorded Boys in the Hood in 1986, and soon began collaborating under the name NWA. NWA, who soon took on MC Ren, DJ Yella, Arabian Prince, and the DLC as members, enjoyed a rise to fame that was nothing short of meteoric. The 1988 album Straight Outta Compton went double platinum and dragged gangster rap and LA's violent gang scene into the public spotlight. Their infamy only grew further after the FBI issued the group's distributor a warning letter after the release of Fuck the Police, the dissolution of NWA. However, NWA was faced with as many controversies as Dr. Dre was faced with criminal charges in the early 90s. In 1991, it became a legal scandal that he allegedly attacked the host of a rap show. Dre also submitted to house arrest after assaulting a record producer and a police officer. After so much back and forth, he was later released, and it was at this moment that the end of NWA would be revealed. It all started when Jerry Heller became the band's manager of NWA, and so much attention was on Eazy-E. Dr. Dre recalls that when Jerry Heller got involved, he played the divide and conquer game. Instead of taking care of everybody, he picked one ninja to take care of, and that was Eazy. And Eazy was like, I'm taken care of, so fuck it. As Dr. Dre and the DLC became skeptical of Eazy-E and Jerry Heller, they ordered Suge Knight to investigate his financial condition. After seeing some evidence that something was going on between Eazy-E and Jerry Heller, Dre and the DLC pleaded for Eazy-E to release them from Ruthless, but he refused. The internal feud between Suge Knight and Eazy-E escalated, resulting in Jerry Heller's kidnapping as a prisoner in a van. This also didn't convince Eazy-E to release Dre and the DLC from Ruthless, and Suge Knight threatened Eazy-E's family. Suge Knight gave Eazy a piece of paper that contained Eazy's mother's address, telling him, I know where your mama stays. Eazy-E would later release Dre and the DLC officially, ending the NWA. Ice Cube also left the group after a dispute over his royalties arose, which brought up the personal animosity between Cube and NWA's manager, Jerry Heller. The feud didn't stop there as NWA continued to release music, with plenty of it attacking him for his apparent betrayal of the group. Cube naturally responded in turn, criticizing NWA, Heller, and Eazy on several of his solo tracks, most notably on No Vaseline. The feud with Dre continued after a track on Dre's debut album The Chronic, Fuck With Dre Day, and Everybody Celebrate, contained lyrics that insulted Eazy-E. Eazy responded with the October 1993 EP, It's On, Dr. Dre, 187 Killer, featuring the tracks Real Motherfucking G's and It's On. The album, released on October 25, 1993, contained pictures of Dre wearing lacy outfits and makeup when he was a member of the electro-hop world-class wrecking crew. It was now the following year that Eazy-E would later be diagnosed with AIDS, which eventually led to his demise. So, the question of who might have given Eazy-E AIDS has sparked controversy in the years since his death. Conspiracy theories about the origins of his illness have circulated, endorsed by those as close to him as his family and colleagues. Accusations have been flung at many, including his rival Suge Knight, his wife Tamika, and even Jerry Heller. Yet no concrete evidence has emerged to support these theories, leaving a cloud of uncertainty and skepticism. His daughter Abby didn't hold back, as she was always digging into what happened, from speaking with health professionals to persons around the hospital at the time.
I have never believed the official story of my father's death. I have always believed that something else happened, and I'm afraid of what that might be.
A lot of things allegedly started being different than it originally was. For instance, it was first stated that his cause of death was cardiac arrest, according to BG Knockout.
Death certificates say cardiac arrest also. So why they not saying he died from cardiac arrest? You see what I'm saying? Well, it don't say cardiac arrest due to a complications with the AIDS virus. It just says cardiac arrest. You see what I'm saying? And that's.
But then, when Abby later saw his father's death certificate, it was listed as pneumonia due to AIDS. This alteration raised many questions and also referred back to what Lil Eazy said about altering his father's death certificate. In an interview with Vlad TV, BJ Knockout revealed that Eazy-E's family would later get into a legal battle with Tamika, and that the truth about Eazy-E's death was being uncovered and was near being discovered.
And they just got out of arbitration with Tamika. you know, Eric and some people in his family and a couple of people that I know. And it almost came out, the truth almost came out. You know what I'm saying? Because it goes that deep. You see what I'm saying? So that's why she spoke what she spoke. She knows a different story. That's why me and my brother sit here and said what we said. We know a different story. You see what I'm saying? So in that,
as the evidence began to make more sense as to who might have been involved in the murder of Eazy-E, the suspicions grew as an enemy of Eazy-E went on national television and said something that made everyone question if he was the mastermind behind Eazy-E's death. Hearing Suge Knight explaining in detail how to kill someone by injecting them with HIV made him the #1 suspect after learning he was a ruthless person. Many believed he was capable of doing such a thing. BG Knockout would release the song In My Prime, where he mentioned in his lyrics that Eazy-E was murdered. Frost also claimed that Eazy-E also mentioned Suge's name, calling him the devil. Ebby would take this claim to a medical professional, asking the question if the virus can be transmitted to someone in this matter, and the answer left the room silent. The revelations placed Suge Knight high on the list as a suspect in Eazy-E's death. In 2015, Eazy's son Lil Eazy also claimed his father was killed and pointed the finger at Suge Knight. He also suggested Ice Cube's 1993 album, Lethal Injection, was a subliminal jab aimed at his former NWA groupmate. He said, "I've known my pops was killed. His death never added up. This is what people have always said. Maybe they think we're idiots, blind to the truth. I don't know. But for you new fans, youngsters and people who just don't know much, the more the truth is revealed, the more we know the original story. Well, Eazy-E's life may have been short, but his legacy still lives on. Long live the godfather of gangsta rap."